So I wanted to briefly mention one thing about something I talked about on a previous episode of The Art Movement, and something that is very near and dear to my heart: animal welfare. Which is a term that I have a problem saying properly, because I always say animal welfare. It's animal welfare. Good Lord. Sometimes I listen to myself back and I'm like, I mispronounce words all the time. What is wrong with me? And I call myself the host of a radio show. Nah. Anyways, I'm going to put on my serious face on. A few weeks ago, I praised Tiger King for exposing animal abuse and raising awareness of animal rights, arguing that despite the fact that it seemed to mostly revolve around the true crime narrative that is so in vogue in these days, it allowed people a chance to catch a glimpse of the horrors that are taking place all around it, of the wild animals forced to live a life essentially of imprisonment. And I argued that Tiger King also raised awareness of things like animal breeding and why it is so dangerous and so on. So what I said was mostly supported by theories that I have always admired by Walter Benjamin, whom I also talked about before on this show, and who maintained essentially that it was up to the viewer or the spectator to wake up from their dreamlike state to which they were subjected through such things as stories and kitsch. There's that word again. Well, now I firmly maintain that I may have been wrong about this one. I have realized that the vast majority of the discussions around Tiger King since its release have revolved around Joe Exotic and Carole Baskin, with some even calling out for the release of Joe Exotic from prison, despite the fact that I think, yes, he is flamboyant and entertaining, but also, very importantly, insane, abusive, and repeatedly threatened to murder a human being. So even if you don't take into consideration how he mistreated those big cats through breeding and all of that stuff, it's pretty clear that something's up with him. And I'm not entirely convinced about Carole Baskin either. I think that she too has her flaws, but in terms of animal rights, it's fairly clear to me that she really has done much to treat tigers to a life of dignity. And the concept of wild animal welfare and rescue centres is something that I am absolutely wanting to devote some space to in future content that I create. And I want to get that opinions right from the sources. But so far, my attempts at reaching out to them have been fairly unsuccessful. But for now, I can only express my disappointment at the little difference Tiger King seems to be making as far as the discourse of wild animal rescue is concerned, and animal welfare in general, you know. But I don't exactly know who is to blame. I think the media in large part is to blame. And by media, I mean anything from mainstream media like big newspapers and websites, news channels, to small podcasters and bloggers with an ardent following. Let's not forget that both widely tend to shape and structure whatever content they produce according to whatever people respond to. Clearly, animal welfare is something that people don't want to be lectured on. It seems to me also that they would rather be lectured on almost everything else, but animal welfare is not one of those things. And this too is a product of conditioning, by the way. In other words, animal welfare is not viral content unless it is presented in a cutesy-wootsy way that doesn't entail showing images of animals mistreated or trying to understand the psychological horror of an animal whose fibre of its being is not meant to be in cages. It's meant to be in the wild. No matter how fancy of an Elton John lookalike. It makes me so angry, you know.